Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Flipside on independent television with yours sincerely, Joy Chirendu Okmani. On today's episode, we'll be talking about sickle cell. Yes, today happens to be World Sickle Cell Day Awareness, and we're doing that just about time. And I'm not alone in studio. I have with me a nurse. Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Osafame Daisy Owango. I'm a nurse. I'm the project manager for Florence Fortress International and an advocate of SDG 3 and 5.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. How would you define sickle cell?
Okay, very basically, sickle cell can be defined as a genetic blood disorder, right, where the hemoglobin in the red blood cell is affected. So because of that genetic problem, it causes the cell to sickle, form a shape. Have you seen a sickle before?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, it's almost like a C, not a complete C. And that shape tends to affect how blood flows through the veins.
Okay, how does the shape look like? Is it like a crescent kind of shape?
Crescent, yes, that's it. That's the actual one. But we use sickle because it looks like one object for plucking fruits from the tree. Yes,
okay.
so that's actually a crescent shape.
So that's how you define sickle cell?
Yes.
All right. So can you explain the difference between a sickle cell disease and a sickle cell trait?
Well, a sickle cell disease is the disease itself. Okay. The trait is that a person can be a carrier. It's just something that is present but has no symptoms. But for the disease, it is present, both genes are present, and it has symptoms.
It has symptoms?
Yes.
So how are you going to say, okay, there's a difference between the trait and the disease itself?
Yes. So someone carrying the trait would be someone that has a blood group of AS. Yes, that's somebody carrying the trait. While someone with an actual disease is the person with the SS. So that S attached to the A is the trait. So that's the difference. If you see people with AS, they don't have symptoms of sickle cell, but they can transmit it. And they have the potential to give it to somebody else.
They have the potential to give it to somebody else?
Yes.
They have the trait?
Yes, that's the trait.
Then the disease itself is when
I have it.
You have it?
Yes.
Okay, that's quite interesting.
I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
I think I'm getting you, definitely.
Okay.
I'm getting you.
Okay.
So what causes sickle cell diseases and how can it actually be inherited?
Okay, like I initially stated, it's a genetic disorder, meaning you can get it from your parents. It's inherited from the gene. It's the gene that causes it. There's a mutation in the gene that causes it to produce an abnormal red blood cell, right? So how you get it is from, let me use a very popular term that everybody knows, from your parents. Maybe you have a man and a woman that are both carriers, the traits we talked about,
Yes.
AS, and they pass it on to
the child.
Exactly. Although it's probability when AS and AS gets married, but the point is your parents, both parents have to be carrying the trait to be able to pass it across and form a child that is sickle cell.
That will not carry the disease?
Yes, that will carry the disease.
So one can actually stay, have the traits, and not live a life full of pains. You know, most of them actually feel pains.
Exactly.
Like they don't take their medications and all that.
Exactly.
So they can actually have the AS trait and be fine.
Yes.
That's interesting. So
except, sorry, in severe cases, severe dehydration. When we say severe dehydration, like really severe, you've not drank water, eaten for a long period of time. It's a rare case, but you can see the symptoms.
You can see the symptoms.
But normally, no.
No.
Yeah.
All right. So if one parent has a sickle cell trait, what are the chances of the child inheriting the sickle cell disease?
If both parents have or if one parent has.
There is a 100% chance?
No. I'm asking, I want to get your question correctly. Is it both parents or one parent?
Both parents.
Okay, both parents have 50%.
For the child to actually carry the disease?
Yes.
What about
50
just
to
the
75%. If it's just the parent, it can reduce by 25%.
25%?
Yes.
So that way the child is still on the safe side?
Yes, very safe side. And 0 to 25%, because if it's just one parent, and it also depends on the gene of the next parent. Is the next parent a carrier? Is he a carrier like the other parent? Are they both carriers, or is just one person that's a carrier? That will also determine too.
That will also determine.
Yes.
All right. So what are the symptoms of sickle cell disease and how is it actually, what are the symptoms basically?
Okay, every of the symptom originates from the problem of the red blood cells. Like we said, it's already sickled. So it means that it doesn't take the normal shape. And normally when red blood cells are flowing through the vein, because of the way they are shaped, they can flow freely. But this particular one, because of the shape, they tend to clump and cluster together.
That will stop the blood from flowing?
Yes, that's what causes the pain that you get to feel in their joints, in their bodies, because when it gets to the joints, it becomes, let me say blocked, right? Because of the obstruction that is already there, right? So pain. And because the red blood cell carries oxygen around the body to important blood vessels, organs, because it's not carrying enough oxygen to the body, there are chances of organ failure as well. So you have pain, you have tiredness, you have anemia. Anemia because those cells now, because they are sickled, they don't live up to the normal lifespan of a normal red blood cells. So these are signs and symptoms in pain, fatigue, anemia.
Okay.
Those are like the major symptoms. Yes.
Of sickle
Yes,
cell
then long-term organ failure and
so on and so forth. All right, Daisy, so let's get this started before we move on. Can a sickle cell, just one sickle cell, actually cause a blockage in the blood vessel?
Okay, like I explained before, you need them,
they all come together?
Yes, they all come together. If it's just one blood vessel, just pass through.
Just pass through.
Yes, through freely. But they need to clump together. That's why I use the word clump together. So it means a lot of them flowing at the same time. Then they all get to clump together and cause the blockage that causes the pain.
But can it cause a permanently damaged blood vessels?
Yes, it can affect the blood vessel because at that point in time, that particular blood vessels is blocking. Have you ever seen when just imagine a tube and it's locked at the other end and you keep pumping water, food, fluid, everything. It starts to expand.
Yes,
expand. Yes, and when it reaches yielding point, breaking point, it bursts open.
Explodes.
Yes. But I'm not saying the blood vessel or explode.
Okay.
I'm just saying that it tends to affect it. Because of the blockage, it can lead to death of the blood vessels, right? Because blood is not going through anymore and the blood vessels are expanded more than normal.
More than normal.
Yes.
And if that blood vessel damages, let me share use the word expire now. I don't know.
No, you can't say explode. Let's just say damage. Damage will be fine.
Okay, damage works fine.
Yes.
Let's say that blood vessel is damaged.
Yeah.
What consequences does it have to the body? Okay. Let's say it's, God forbid, let's say it's my hand. Let's say it's my hand is about right now.
Yes.
What may actually be the consequence of that blood vessel dying off?
For sickle cell patients, one of the major complications is stroke. And stroke is as a result of a damaged blood vessels in the blood vessel in the brain or in the head. So blood is not able to get to where it's supposed to get to, and it causes symptoms like paralysis of some side of the face. So stroke is a complication of sickle cell disease which arises from a damaged blood vessel.
Okay. Moving on, are there any medications that one can actually use to prevent the blood vessels blockage in the sickle cell?
Mostly from our side of management, right? We advise rehydration, continuous rehydration. It helps to the blood vessels to move freely, or should I say it aids them to move freely within the blood vessels. So we are whenever we get to educate sickle cell patients, we get to tell them the importance of taking water continuously. We get to tell them the importance of drinking water every time, the importance of hydrating themselves, because if they are not properly hydrated, it increases the chances of those vaso-occlusive crises caused by the clumps together red blood cells.
Red blood cells.
Yes.
Okay. So we're saying hydration, continuous hydration is like the key medication to it?
No, not really a medication. It's more of management.
Management?
Yes. We treat sickle cell based on symptomatic management. But when I say symptomatic management, I'm talking about the symptoms that arise, right?
Okay.
So when you have pain, we are treating you with pain medications.
So you're saying every individual can actually have different symptoms?
No, they are common symptoms.
Common symptoms?
Yes, they are common symptoms. They are common symptoms. So we treat you based on the symptom you have. So we are managing the condition based on the symptom presented. Which is the normal pain, anemia. That's where you get to do blood transfusion. So it's majorly a conservative management. We are just trying to manage the symptoms as they occur. Exactly. Although there are treatments, right? There's a stem cell transplant. I'm sure you must have heard of that, where you collect. What
is that?
Okay, it's a form of treatment where you get to collect a stem cell, or it's where blood cells arise from. So you get to collect it from a sibling, a parent, close relative. You collect it from the bone marrow. You collect the bone marrow itself and transplant to the sickle cell patient in order to change the production of the red blood cells, the kind of cells that are being produced. So it starts producing normal red blood cells. I think it used to be done then at UBTH, if I remember correctly, when I was still a student. We heard of testimonies where sickle cell patients got treated with that stem cell transplant and they became AA instead of the normal SS that they used to be.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and there's a new therapy, but it's not in Nigeria yet.
What therapy is that?
It was developed last year. It's called a gene replacement therapy. You know, we said it's a genetic disorder. So they get to, let me use simple English, they get to extract a gene and transfer it.
It's like taking from one to another.
Yes, in order to change the gene component of that person that gets affected by sickle cell. That gene mutation that caused the cell to be sickled in the first place will no longer be there. So the body now receives response from the DNA, from the gene that, okay, produce a normal red blood cells. Red blood cells, sorry.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Very interesting. It's a new development.
It's a new development.
Yes.
But it's not in Nigeria. Where is it going to enter Nigeria?
I don't know. It's in the United States.
Are you sure it's not in Nigeria?
Yes. Maybe, but to the best of my knowledge, it was developed last year, December.
Last year, December.
Yes, so if it's in Nigeria, probably. But to the best of my knowledge, I know that it's a recent treatment.
Recent treatment.
Yes.
All right. So it's about time we go on a short break. So just stay tuned. This is the Flip Side on independent television. Stay tuned for more. Don't go nowhere. Definitely don't go nowhere. Sickle cell disease continues to be a significant yet often overlooked global health crisis affecting millions worldwide. Annually, countries around the world observe World Sickle Cell Day to raise awareness about this condition. This International Awareness Day aims to enhance public knowledge and understanding of sickle cell disease, as well as the challenges faced by patients, their families, and caregivers. On this day, various global and local organizations unite to promote awareness campaigns and activities that emphasize the importance of early diagnosis, effective treatment, and preventive measures to manage the disease. Every year on June 19, World Sickle Cell Day is observed. The theme for this year's observance is Hope Through Progress, Advancing Sickle Cell Globally. This theme underscores the importance of unity, collective voices, and heightened awareness to reduce the stigma and bring about meaningful change for the millions affected by sickle cell disease. All right, welcome back, and you see on to Flipside on independent television. We yours sincerely, Joy Chiwendu Okmani, and of course, Nurse Daisy.
Hi.
Yeah. So before we went to break, you said you were going to correct something.
Yes. In correction to what I said earlier about the treatment, right? It's actually now in Nigeria and one in the Edo State. We actually have one in the Edo State for now, championed by Dr. Bazwayi. So yes, that's the correction I wanted to make. Yes.
All right. So moving on, what are some challenges faced by people with sickle cell? What challenges can they actually face?
Aside the very common health challenge in terms of what they can do, because they can't function as normal human beings. What I mean by that is that the activities they get to do are limited because of exertion of themselves can cause the crisis, can instigate crisis. and the huge financial burden, because they have to ensure that they eat right. They can't just eat anyhow. They have to ensure that they have proper nutrition. They have to ensure that they take their medications. They have to come for regular checkups. Even the treatment is very expensive. For example, the one that we mentioned that is already ongoing, you need about 15 to 18 million.
For treatment?
Yes, to ensure that happens. It's a whole lot of financial burden on the caregivers and the person itself.
So let's say someone doesn't have that amount of money actually to go to the hospital for the bone marrow transplant and all. Can they actually use dietary food to sustain themselves even without going to the hospital?
Yes, but it's a compendium of factors, right? You can't just say, I'm just focusing on only my diet.
Okay.
For example, everybody we are what we eat. Whatever we take into our system is what we produce. If you eat well, you
come out well.
Exactly. But for their case, while they eat well, there's also a need for regular checkups, right? There's also a need for prevention of overexertion of oneself. That means you don't get to do all of those excessive activities like lifting heavy objects. Just think of any demanding work. Exactly. But they can live a normal and healthy life. They just have to put all of these factors in place. For example, the popular, what's his name? AG baby.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can see how he's living his life.
I actually found out yesterday that actually is it SS or AS? Which is SS? SS.
I don't know if he has gone for the treatment yet, but to the best of my knowledge, he was actually...
Who would have known? He actually looks very healthy.
Exactly. So if you eat well, if you ensure that you prevent infections, regular hand washing, all of those basic infection prevention principles, you get to see yourself living a healthy life. You go for regular checkup, avoid overcrowded places where infections can be easily transmitted. Also, cook your meals well. You don't get to buy food like every other person, because you have to be very cautious of what you take into your system. So with all those factors, you can live a healthy life.
Live a healthy life.
Yes.
I remember some time back when I was actually younger, an aunt, simple an aunt, she left her daughter with us at home, and she was around like 15. I was more like 16, 17. And what happened was, she's actually SS. So she suddenly ran out of air. And I had no idea that she was SS, okay?
Yeah.
And I was still very young. She just collapsed on the ground. And I was the only one at home, left with her. Yeah. So I was like, what's wrong with you? My friend, get up. Her name is Isisa. Like, get up, what's wrong with you? Why are you laying on the ground? She was very stiff. And I was scared. There was nobody in the compound. Wow. So before I carried her down from the stairs, imagine me, younger me, carrying somebody who's smaller than me, running down the flight of stairs, looking for help. Before people found her and started pouring water on her body, rushed her to the hospital, I had to now realize that, oh, she's actually SS. She was crying because she was feeling so much pains all over her body. It was later I started understanding that, okay, because of the cells, the blood cells, the sickle blood cells that actually blocked the passage of her blood and everything else. So it was very, very scary having that kind of experience for me. It was very scary, trust me. I was scared that, oh, my this girl going to die in my hand, though. There is nobody in the house. How am I going to explain all this? So moving on, over time, she had to start eating well because she looked very lean. She looked very lean, like about to disappear. That's how we should say it. You want to disappear, eat well. We used to tease and all that. But not everybody knows that those certain words you speak to people, like I just said, you want to vanish, can actually, words hurt people. Yes. So they actually stay and remain in a mindset that, oh, somebody said this to me, and actually push them into a darker part and remain like, push them into depression just because somebody said this, somebody said that. So how would you advise people who should not have the idea that, oh, these things, they don't transfer by touching the person?
Yes.
So how are you going to tell that to somebody?
Yes, okay. That's a very good question. I remember when I went for a sickle cell outreach 2022 organized by Mobicure Foundation. We had a case where people had the misconception that if you touch a sickle cell person, I was shocked actually, you get to have the sickle cell, like it can be transmitted just like other respiratory infection. Well, my advice is that generally it's important that we are all kind with our words, right? You don't have to know someone or what's happening to them before you are kind to them and watch what you say to them, right? That whole verbal abuse, that stigma, it's a cause for depression when it comes to sickle cell patients, because they are already aware of their form, they are already aware of their problems. So getting to remind them of how they look will affect how they feel about themselves. So try and be encouraging. Say the right words. Hello, how are you doing today? If you want to encourage somebody to eat, oh, I think eating this will help you better. I hope I'll be able to cover that.
All right. Okay, so before we move on, yeah, we'll just go on a very short break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and thank you for staying tuned. So you were saying something earlier before we went on that immediate break.
Yes, I was talking about how to be kind to these persons because they are already aware of what they are going through. They are already aware of their condition. So what they need is emotional support. They need kindness. They need people to be there for them because it's easy for them to feel like a burden. Spending all that money, their caregivers being there, having to reduce their activities because they have to take care of them. They tend to feel like a burden. Oh, I'm the reason why this person is not doing as much as they would on a normal day. And that's something that bothers them a lot, that easily gears them towards depression. So it is very, very important that whenever you see people that are sick, you are kind to them. One of my mantra as a nurse is that I give every sick person possible experience they can ever have, is to make them feel important and make them feel very seen through their healing journey. So that's basically how to help people with sickle cell, emotional support.
Okay. So for managing pain, how would you say they can actually manage their pain for sickle cell patients?
For themselves or, okay, for themselves. If the pain is, first of all, we manage them in the hospital, right? But to prevent it, like I spoke earlier, rehydration. Very important for them to stay hydrated. And hospitals usually give them take-home drugs that they can use to manage their pain that is not so severe when they're at home, but severe pain is always managed in the hospital. Yes, we don't advise you to stay at home and try and manage yourself. Exactly, use hot water, press your body.
Use hot water and press your body.
Although people do that, but we advise that you come to the hospital, let us manage the pain because it can be so severe.
It can be so severe. Okay. Yes. So treatment, you said basically you need to be always hydrated, yes?
Yes.
Eating good food and all.
Yes.
Not being stigmatized.
Yes.
So generally your final, how will I say, advice now to people with sickle cell disease, what's your final advice to them?
Okay. One of the preventions, right? I always believe in prevention.
Okay.
One of the preventions for sickle cell is that know your genotype. It is very, very, very important. In fact, that should be your first aid question. Even before you guys enter any talking stage, what is your genotype? So that in case the person is AS, you are AS, there's no attachment yet. You guys can easily say, hello, we will just be friends and not go any further, right? So it's very important. Know your genotype. Your children, immediately you give birth to them, some hospitals employ this. They get to do genotype testing for them, but some don't. So it's important that if you don't know your child's genotype, know it when you're giving birth to them. Check it. So that's my final remark. Be kind to people who are stigmatized. Thank you very much.
All right, all right. So thank you all for joining today on Flipside. And remember, be kind to people. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what life challenges they're actually facing. So be kind, be nice, and lend a helping hand, okay? Lend a helping hand to them. And do have a nice day. Until we see next time, next Wednesday, definitely stay blessed.